So we, in fact, did get 2/100ths of an inch out of Easterwood today. It was much less in my house, I can tell you that much, because I think I got 2 drops total. Hearn Municipal, just over 1/4 of an inch. Huntsville, just under 1/10 of an inch, rounded up there. Belleville, about 1/4 of an inch as well. We did have a weather watcher report from Elizabeth and Roans Prairie who saw just under an inch. I think Grimes County folks were some of the bigger winners today, along with folks in Montgomery County as well. So we saw some, but a lot of us watching this did not. This was all thanks to the sea breeze, and you can see as the sun went down, the rain went with it. But this leftover cloud cover, and we saw a little bit of clearing out on the west. That made for an excellent sunset out there this evening. We saw a good one on Saturday too. So at the very least, we had that nice little south breeze and some good sunsets to enjoy over the course of this weekend. In fact, one of the quieter radar presentations across the southeast that we have seen really for all of this month. Now, the big culprit of that is high pressure is starting to tighten its grip over this part of the world. And that's what we're going to see through a large portion of this week. I think Tuesday through Thursday, we got to consider ourselves on triple digit watch. I don't know that we're quite going to get there. I think we still have enough leftover moisture to where model data is just going a little bit in too hard. We'll look at that in just a little bit. But this is the dominating pattern that we're going to be talking about throughout this week. As we get into the weekend, could there be a little what we would call a weakness in this ridge of high pressure as it kind of settles off to the south and to the west? Sometimes, even under a ridge, you're able to get some rain. And model data is picking up on that, especially as we head into next weekend. Remember that moisture that we've been talking about that we're kind of recycling with that old tropical disturbance? Well, I think we're definitely going to see that closer to the Gulf Coast. You see all these higher rainfall totals, and then we go into Saturday and Sunday, and you start to see a little bit of color return to the Lone Star State. But if you're just looking at this overall pattern, a lot of Texas looks a lot drier than the rest of the U.S., and that's because that ridge is going to be plopped right over us for most of this week and potentially right on into the weekend as well. So, got to be some heat advisories to go along with that. And like last week, a lot of the higher temperatures and heat index values are likely going to be seen off to our north and to our east along the Mississippi River, even up into the Midwest where dew points are climbing into the mid to upper 70s. And a lot of this is a thing called corn sweat. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on in the week, but this is the time of year for that to happen where all the crops are starting to really literally sweat. And there's a lot of heat index value to go along with that. So very, very humid air there. And again, we're going to be plenty hot and humid as well, but relatively seasonable. The average high around this time of year is 97, and I've got 2 degrees higher than that for a couple of days. As we wrap up the week and head into the weekend, still think it's a potential that we find some more isolated storms out there, but a lot of the next 7 days and even 10 days is going to be dry. And of course, that higher rain chance has to fall on the weekend, but a lot of us got through this weekend without finding any rain. I think the next weekend will be pretty similar.